Hello, I just wanted to share my experience with the paper floor. This is my bathroom. What I used was red rosin paper, which I cut instead of tear for a different tile effect. We went over a concrete floor that I pulled up tile from. So after I smoothed it out with a powered chisel, I ended up sealing it with Sealcrete, 2 coats. And then for the red rosin paper, I ended up getting, I wanted to get like a weathered gray look. So I got, where is it? A Stain Poly Weathered Gray by Varathane, and it's a semi-gloss sheen. And what I ended up doing was first I did a test board, which I strongly recommend. This I did, the first attempt was, this is red rosin paper, and what I used was, my first attempt was with a straight polyurethane that I mixed with a little bit of gray RIT dye. And when I first did it, it looked okay. And then the second time I tried it again, I think I might have put too much dye with the urethane, so it got all like Vaseline. And so I tried to just smear it out. And this is how it dried. And wasn't really the look I was going for. So then I got the Varathane Stain and Polyurethane, and what I did was I took random cut pieces and crumpled them up. You know, I've heard recommending crumpling them up twice for more of the vein-like patterns. So I did that, and then I poured the stain into a painter tray and soaked the paper in that, and then I'd have to take off the excess with my fingers. I can't really show you because I'm holding the phone. And then I just laid them down onto the floor. I did the first half, which you can tell here looks more gray. I did that first, and then I ran out of the stain, so I came back the next day and did the part that looks more red. And so the parts that were extra gray, I didn't know what to do. So here I kind of sanded it down. I wasn't smart enough to do it on my test board or use the corner to start with, and I just did randomly on the floor. And I was like, uh-oh. So I did it on my test board, and then I went over it with the clear urethane to see if that would help, and it doesn't. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm probably gonna do is just go over the second half with more of the gray stain, even though I like it better red as the red. There's nothing I can do to take the gray off. Someone suggested that I relay paper over, but I think you'll be able to feel the difference, and I don't want to do the whole floor over. Recommendations I would give to you would be to, there's a good piece of advice is when you're cutting or shredding your pieces up before you put them on the floor, separate your edges from your non-edge pieces so that you can lay the borders down. As I was laying down the second part of the floor, I did not crumple them before I brought them. Like before the first half, I crumpled everything and then just, would undo the crumples as I was going. For the second part of the floor, I had already cut all the pieces, but I hadn't crumpled them yet, so I liked that better because then I would see, I was able to see right away how the aesthetics would look better. Also, I had to use 2 different rolls of the red rosin paper, and so the first roll was kind of more brown, and then the second roll was more red. So fortunately, at least I found that out before I started laying everything down and was able to mix them in, and to me that looks pretty well, evenly mixed up. Another thing I would recommend is, which I don't remember hearing from anybody, But when you're laying it down, you're obviously going to layer it because you have to get the edges overlapping about, a centimeter to a half inch. So what I would recommend is as you're laying down the pieces, if you like the border and you want to preserve, let's say this border, then I would recommend once you put it down, just kind of fold it up so that the next piece will go underneath it. There were times where I wanted to do that, but I had already kind of, brushed it onto the floor, and so as I started to peel it back up, the paper was already stuck to the floor. So my recommendation would be to plan as you're going, if you want to keep in mind which edge you want to keep visible. So, and let's see, this is where the toilet's going to go. So I am going to have the toilet over part of the gray, and then I have a piece of furniture going here, but this is the part that bothers me, and that's probably not going to get covered. What else? There are some wrinkles in the edges, but I'm going to be putting a baseboard over this, and I'm going to end up putting some wainscoting on the wall. So I'm not really worried about the stain on the wall, but that's another thing if you're going to do colored stain the way I did it, where I soaked the papers first and then laid them down. Other people have soaked them in the clear urethane and then went over it with the stain after it was on the floor. Either way, if you want to preserve the paint on your wall, I would get, like the little brown paper roll and protect the wall, because it's easy to splash around, especially if you're messy like myself. So that's it for now. I can't think of any of the other tips I wanted to share. Once I get everything done, I will make a video part 2 and see if I actually came up with a resolution, or if I'm just going to strategically place bath mats over the gray part. Okay, thanks